Hello, this is an introductory project in animation and compositing in Blender. We'll be making this video right here together. Here you can see our folder of resources, some butterflies to choose from for you. There's a final example video in the folder as well that you can look at. That's the video we just saw. And then Flowers 1 is our sample video that we're going to start off with. In Blender, when you see it, you'll see this pop up right here. Just click off. And Blender is a 3D design software that we can use to create anything. And then, so we'll model and animate our butterfly in this software. And then for this project, we'll also composite it. So compositing is a traditional film technique where we just layer things on top of each other. For our purposes here, though, we need to be able to see our flower video right from the beginning. So I'm going to hit Shift-A and go to Images as Planes. For Blender's purposes, a video and an image are the same. So I'll double click on Final Example Video here, and you have to go up here to Rendered to see it. And right away you can see it's quite dark. When you open Blender, you're going to be in a render engine that's called Cycles. We'll click the top button here. That's, what does it say? Render Properties. Go to Cycles and click EV. We don't need the complexity there. It'll be much faster. So a little introduction to Blender. When you have an item in Blender, you can hit G to grab it and move it around. You can hit G and let's say Z to move it only on the Z axis. You can hit R to rotate, or you can just rotate it on the X axis. So if I type RX 90, that gives us what we want. We don't really need to see this grid though, so up here where there's two circles, I can click on the drop down, click floor, and get rid of that grid. And finally, just to get off of these red and green lines, I'm going to hit G, Z, and move it up so that it's standing alone. Now you can see it's quite dark. We could add a light in here. So if I do Shift, right click, that'll move the little red and white 3D cursor there. That will put the thing that I'm going to add on that cursor. If I type Shift A, go to light, add a sun, and nothing happens, but if you rotate it on the y-axis and then rotate it on the x-axis, you can, I'll show you, affect G to move it. So with the sunlight, it doesn't matter how close it is because it's like a sun. It's just in the sky affecting everything. If we rotate it on the z-axis, you can see that it's affecting the picture there. So what we want to have is, so if you use your middle mouse button, you can kind of pan around. We want it to affect that. We want it to shine down on it, so it looks pretty good. You can see there's a little bit of glare. If I select the image, I go to the red planet icon, that's texture properties, material properties. Let's find specular, that's shininess, and drop it down to 0. So we're going to go over this in class, but this video exists as a reference that you can go back to over and over again, slow down, speed up, whatever you need to do. And just for our purposes here, I'm going to have this image emit a little light as if it was on a screen, which it is, but not within Blender. So I'll go to the Shading tab up here at the top. And this may be your first introduction to node-based workflow. Lots of things. DaVinci Resolve that we're going to be using has a node-based workflow within Fusion. Maya, Nuke, tons of things have node-based workflows. These are nodes. They do stuff. Here is the video node. It has a bunch of features. You can see the color is going into this. So this is a shader node. It just tells Blender how to apply the image to this rectangle. And what we want to do here is the color is going into base color. I'm going to click on color and also drag it into emission. And then you can see it got brighter. If I turn on rendered view here, it's much brighter now. I'll just drop that down a little bit. 2.5. That's not enough. Let's do some more. Nah, let's leave it. All right, go back to layout. let's turn our sun. So this is our object list up here in the top right. These are all the things that will be in our scene. If you click on something, you'll get the properties for it down here. So you can see that that's a sun. The little light bulb is selected. The green light bulb is light properties. Let's raise the strength of the sun till we are happy with how bright our picture is. Great. Why not? And so the next thing that we need is a camera. Since we're in a 3D space here in Blender, something has to bear witness to what's happening in Blender so that it can record and output a video for us that we could edit into the rest of our movie. I'll type Shift-A and find a camera. And there's our camera. I can hit G, Y, and move it on the Y-axis. I can just move it around however I want. I want to move it right to the middle of everything here, but the easiest way to do that is from within viewing the camera's viewport. So this tiny little menu here, there's a camera, and if you click that, you go into the camera. So this orange rectangle becomes the camera view. We want to stay here in the camera view and move the camera with us when we move around for right now. If I were to hit the middle mouse button and move around, the camera doesn't come with us. We can change that. So we'll just go to camera again, zoom in until the orange rectangle is the size you want relative to your screen. And there's a little menu that comes up if you type N, or you can see it's also up here in the world's tiniest, hard to activate thing right there. But type N will do it. Go to the View tab and click Lock Camera to View. Now when we move around, the camera's stuck to our view, right? And that's really helpful. In the same menu, you can go to Item. You can see the rotation. I've moved it around. So all those things change when you move around, and you can, instead of moving around, just affect them by typing them in. And now we're straight on to our picture. Let's make the location be 0 as well. So we're probably right on top of that picture because it went in the middle of the world. So I still have the camera selected. I'll type G, Y, and move back. There we go. And G, Z, and move the camera up. And what we want to do here is, let's get out of the camera view for a second by clicking the camera icon. We're going to do some things with depth of field here. So we want our image to be relatively far away from our camera. So there's a good amount of space in here between the camera and the image or the video for our butterfly to exist. Going back into camera, now what we need to do is to scale up the video until it fills our window. I'll type N to make this go away, and I'll just type S to scale it up. So to move things, it's G for grab. To rotate, it's R for rotate, and S for scale. Why is it not M? I have no idea. But through using S and G, I can carefully line this up so that the picture is just covering outside of the bounds of what is now a red dotted line, but if I select the camera, it becomes an orange line. You can see that the video is just outside of the bounds of the camera line, which is great. Let's see. So down here at the bottom, that's our timeline. If we push spacebar or play, then our video plays for us. We can scroll our middle mouse wheel to see more frames. These numbers represent frames, and we're going to want for this 316 frames. That's kind of arbitrary, but it's exactly where the video ends and stops being useful. So right here you can see there's start, 1, end. Make the end be 316. You can also change that in the output tab. Right below render properties, there's the output tab. 1920 by 1080, that's what we're going to make. 30 frames per second is good, and end is 316 frames. So our video will be exactly that long. I've made a terrible mistake here, and I have made this video be our final video as opposed to the reference video. That's okay, because this is a great opportunity, go to the shading tab, for us to show you how to change that out. So these videos should be the same in many regards. We can just hit, so in the shading tab, we're back in our nodes here. I'll click open, and instead of the final example video, what we're looking for is flowers 1. There we go. Now if we go to layout, it's still the same size, dimensions, it's all good. Nothing happens. Very interesting. In our node here, in shading, you can see amongst the settings, how many frames of this video do you want to use? We want to use, you guessed it, 316. Start frame 1, that's all good. So now if I push spacebar, the video plays, and we have a playing video in our 3D world, which is cool. So now, since our camera is here, we can lock the camera to the video so that we don't end up losing their relationship. The way that we can do that is click one object, hold shift and click the other object. You'll see that one of them is yellow and one of them is orange. The yellow one is our primary object. If I were to control click on the other one, it would become the other one. So we want to parent the video to the camera. A parent and a child, the child follows the parent around. So control P, set parent to object. And now, if for some reason we did move our camera, the video would follow it around. And what that means is that in the camera, if we move the camera, you can't tell because the video just follows it around. I'll hit escape to get out of that. We don't actually want to move anything, we just want to prevent it from moving. So now I guess we're ready to bring in our butterfly. I'll hit Shift A and go to Image, Images as Planes. If you don't see this here, I should have said this earlier, it's an add-on that I'll tell you to enable in class. But it's very easy. You go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, just search for Images as Planes and make sure it's checked. You can check it and click X and it will still be there. Shift A, Image as Planes. Here's our project file. Wherever you downloaded these files to, that's where it should be. And here is my butterfly. All right. I can see that it's too big and it's behind the video. S to scale, G, Y, we'll bring it forward. I'm just going to hit G and grab it. RX 90. Now we have our butterfly. You can see it's also a little shiny, so I'm going to go to the red planet material properties and turn the specular off. Usually in Blender, when you're working with any type of image on a plane or a video, I just turn specular reflectivity completely to 0. It's not useful. What you're trying to get is what was rendered in the video or the image, not rendering lighting in the 3D world, right? So now we have our butterfly. And what we want to be able to do is to make its wings flap individually. And so this is a great animation project for us because we just have to have 3 parts, the middle part and 2 wings. All of this stuff, though, will apply to larger characters or anything else that you might be working on. This is just sort of an introductory project in animation. So let's go ahead and edit our butterfly so that it's in 3 pieces. Any object that you click on, not the camera, but let's say the video or the butterfly or a chair or whatever else you bring into Blender, you can hit Tab to go into edit mode. You can also go up here to the top left of the screen where it says object mode and go to edit mode, but I just hit Tab. Looks like I have 2 objects selected, so I'm getting both of those things. There we go, just the butterfly. And if you have a full keyboard and you go up to the number pad on the right hand side, and that's what is that, a /? I don't know. It will isolate your object, and I'm sure that there's a view button for that somewhere, but I would highly recommend getting getting a full keyboard. Now we're here in edit mode, so you can see that this is just a picture that's been applied to a plane, a rectangle. Up here next to rendered view, there's material view. It'll make our lives a little bit easier because since there's no lighting in this isolated void for our butterfly, we need to be able to see it a little bit better. So we want to isolate the wings from the body. We want this to be 3 pieces. And there's 2 easy ways we can do this. We can type Control R, and if you hit Control R and you mouse over the edge of the rectangle, you'll get a line. You could mouse over this way and get a line. We're going to get a line, and then if you click once, it'll say, okay, it's a line, and then you could drag it around. And if the wing and the antenna kind of were on a straight line, this would be super useful because we would just click again and it would be right there. But not really. We need to kind of scoop it in here. So I'm going to hit Control Z, and we'll use the knife tool to slice this butterfly up into pieces. So I'll just hit K and mouse over the edge and click there, click there, click there, and click there, and hit Enter. That's pretty good. This wing is now not a separate piece, but it's been divided by this line. So I'll type K again, do the same thing again. Now we have 3 parts, but we need them to be totally independent. So right now they share. So things in a 3D sculpting program like this, they are made up of polygons, and those are put together with lines and dots. Well, we call them edges and vertices. So if I type 1 on my keyboard, I'm in vertex mode, which is just the dots. You could move a dot around. If you type 2, you'll be in edge mode, which is the lines, and you can select an edge. You can move that around. Or if you type 3, you'll be in face mode, which is polygon mode, and you can move that around. And you click escape to not do that because then your butterfly becomes a monstrosity. So what we want to do here is just select, in face mode, select the middle one, type P, and selection. What that means is that we just separated that middle section from this object. It's now its own object. You can see in the object window, it's a separate object. And what that means is that this face is now separate, and this face is now separate, and that's great. I'm going to hit Tab to go back into object mode, and now we have one object that is the wings. They're both selected, so I'll just select the wings. One object is the wings. Oh, I missed some of the wing. Check that out. All right, let's go back. You can hit Control Z until you are happy. Type 1, select a vertex. Yeah, I'm just going to hit Control Z until I have not made a mistake. K for knife. There we go. All right. Great. So now we have our middle section and our wing section. Now, counterintuitively, we want them to be one object. We just don't want them to share vertices and edges as they were before on their single image plane. So we'll select them both and hit Control J. Control J will join those 2 objects back together. Why did we do this? Well, if I tab into edit mode, they are still separate individual pieces that have their own vertices. This vertex and this vertex are not the same. So now we can do interesting things. So for instance, what we can do is we can give this object a shape key. Go down here to Object Data Properties, and you'll see shape keys. So what a shape key is it just tells an object that sometimes you're shaped like this and sometimes you're shaped like that. So our basis, our default shape is going to be wings down, and our other shape key, that's going to be the other thing that it can be, it's going to be wings up. Okay, so RZ wings up. But we don't want it to be like this. We want the wing bit to stay attached to the body of the... Is it an insect? What are these things? Butterflies. Insect? Yeah, who cares? All right, so the way that we're going to rotate the wing only on the edge of the body here is we're going to... We're in edit mode? Yeah, 2. So I went to 2 for edge mode, and I select that edge. And I want my 3D cursor to move to that edge. So I'll hit Shift S. You get a bunch of cursor options. Cursor to selected. Sweet. So that is centered on that edge. So now, if I move this guy, will it? Probably not. No, it doesn't work because it's pivoting off of its own center. We just have to change our pivot point to the 3D cursor. Right there at the top, 3D cursor. And now, we can fly! We can fly free! Alright, so our basis shape wants to be kind of like the wings are down a little bit, you know, because you can go past 0. And for the other one, we got to do the same thing. It looks pretty good. So this will be our basis. Tab out of edit mode, make a shape key, make another one. Yeah. Okay. Tab back into edit mode. RZ to bring the wing up. RZ. We gotta move it back to this. Alright. Butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Okay, great. Shape key, value 1. Does that do it? I think it does. Alright, so back in object mode. Look at that. Is that working? Alright, great. So we have given it a shape key, and now it can be one thing, or it can be another thing, or it can be anywhere in between those things. As we're panning around here, you can kind of see that this looks good, but on this side, it's kind of like disappears. What that is an image. There's a front and there's a back, and it's doing something called back face culling, where you don't want to see the back. You need to turn that on or off or something. Yeah, no, that's not it. Alpha blend, alpha hashed. Yeah, so down here in the red planet, material properties all the way at the bottom. These are settings that you just have to kind of mess with until you're happy. So now, that thing that you couldn't probably see, it was kind of obscure, but now it's not doing it, and I'm happy. So now it looks very much like a butterfly. In a different world with a different project, we could go in here and we could sculpt the body so that it was round, and we could do all kinds of things. And the honest truth is that in the film industry, you don't do anything that is unnecessary. And so if this is just a background butterfly in a shot, this is about as complex as it needs to be. Especially for this project, this is plenty. So we're good. We've got a butterfly here. If you come up here to these 2 circles and click them, then even if you have something selected, the orange outline disappears. So now we can kind of mess with our butterfly and go back to shape key and just see that it flaps its wings. Feels kind of stretched out. I wonder why that is. What does it look like from the side? No, it looks good from the side. What does it look like from the top? Ooh. Oh, it looks good from the top too. So it's a little stretchy, it seems like, but all I did was rotate them, so it's probably fine. All right, cool. So here we are. Going to hit that / again. And we've done good things. So we can click on the camera, and we're in the camera. We have a butterfly, and we can hit G and move it around. I'm going to turn the, what is this even called? Show overlays. I'm going to turn show overlays back on, because it helps us see what's going on. And so if I hit timeline, we have our video, and we're ready to sync our butterfly up with our video. Now comes the there's two types of people that love what's about to happen to you, and people that don't. But what we have to do is tell the butterfly everywhere to go and everywhere to be and everything to do. And so it's not hard, it's pretty tedious. But now we're going to find, we're going to get down here to the timeline, click the back arrow here. It will take us all the way back to the beginning. And where the blue handle is, that's the frame that we're on. So you put the butterfly where you want it to be. You can see if you move the handle, the video moves, it stays active and current. So we're going to start our butterfly off screen. So I'll move it down here, and let's just rotate a little. Oh, you know what? Now we're still rotating off of the 3D cursor. It's not going to serve us anymore. So let's change the pivot point back to individual origins. RZ to rotate. Change the shape key. RX. Great. All right. So the other thing that we want to do here is we're about ready to start animating our butterfly, but we want to be able to have it move in the space. So imagine if this butterfly really was in this video, right? Well, this flower is close, and that's why it's blurry. And this flower is further away, and that's why it's sharp. The focal point of the camera is focused on this flower, roughly. Depth of field is how large of an area in the world, the real world, like if you have a real camera and you're filming, some things are sharp and some things are blurry. And if everything is sharp, then your depth of field is infinite. If most things are blurry and you only got like a face that's sharp, which is a very common technique, right? You got bokeh in the background, or like blown out, blurry dots that people love to put in film. That's because you have a really shallow depth of field. So the depth of focus is really shallow, and then you move that until it's on the person, then everything else is blurry. Great. We're going to use that in this video, but we're going to fake it. And the way that we are able to fake it is because I've put this video up here for us to look at so that we know where to put the butterfly. But we're going to render the butterfly alone by itself like this. And then we're going to composite it onto the footage, because we don't want to be lighting the footage like we're going to do in the 3D world. We don't want to be changing the blur factor of the footage. We just want to light and blur our butterfly. H to hide something, Alt H to bring it back. So here we are, and we're in our camera. We have our camera, so I select the camera. I'll show you depth of field really quick. Go to the camera icon with the camera selected, click depth of field. You can see it just got blurry, the butterfly. And then if you change the f-stop, then you can, right, just change all those things. And if you mess with it enough, let's see, I think 8 is about right. There we go. Now it's super sharp. So what you can do is you can change these settings, and you can change them over time by keyframing them, which I'm going to show you how to do that in 1 second. But just be aware that's how we're going to do that. So I'll turn off depth of field for now. It'll be something that'll help us later. So we're ready to begin animating our butterfly. Let's hit G and move him or her or them off screen. And off screen is where we start. Why is there a keyframe for this butterfly already? That's weird. I'm going to delete that. That should not exist. All right. Butterfly's off screen. We're on frame 1. So mouse over the main window. I'm going to type I. The keyframe menu pops up. Location, rotation, and scale. On frame 1, the butterfly is keyframed to be in this position. What you want to do when you're animating something is do it in big chunks. Like on a full, Disney early animation scene, you would have a main animator create every minute or get down to the granular every second, and then you would have junior animators come back and draw all the frames in between. So you'd have hero frames where you know where you want something to be, and then you come back and fill it in later. With non-destructive editing, we can set a keyframe, and we can also come back and delete it later, and no harm, no foul. For us, since we're doing 30 frames per second, every 30 frames is a second, and so we try to imagine where the butterfly would be a second later. So it flies on, and I'll hit G and scale it down like it got further away. R, Z, it kind of flew over here. G, and that's how far it made it in 1 second. So I'll type I, location, rotation, and scale. And now we can go back and see that second. And I'll go back, push spacebar. All right, so the butterfly moved on screen. That looks terrible. I know. So this is the tedious part. You go through all these hero frames, and you set it up where you want the thing to be. So by the second, I want it to have landed on this flower. And it will have moved a little bit, and it will have rotated a little bit. Type I, location, rotation, and scale. Go back, push spacebar. Not bad, not bad. So what you do then is you go back to the halfway point of the first, between two keyframes, and you say, okay, what would it have done? Well, it wouldn't have started to turn yet because it's still flying straight in. It turns at the last second. So I rotate Z, I, location, rotation, and scale. And I'll come up to, 22. Let's just see what it looks like. Okay, so what also will happen is we want to animate our shape key because the butterfly is not flapping its wings, but it should. So we'll go back to the beginning. Whatever it's on is fine. But when we get to the next one, we'll have, we also have to keyframe our shape key. So go back to the beginning. I'll hover over the shape key value here, type I, and you can see that a little diamond appears, it changes color, it's telling you that you got a keyframe. By the next one, so these little two buttons right here, they take you to previous keyframe, next keyframe, really valuable. Next keyframe, we're going to raise the wings up. I, next keyframe, we're going to have the wings, we'll have them up again because we're going to put some keyframes in between these for the down ones. And next keyframe, let's just say that it has reached 0. But we didn't keyframe this one, did we? No. There we go. All right. So now what you do is, for each of these, you come in and you keyframe things until it looks like it's doing the thing that you want it to have done. And the other thing is that you want to match move the shot. As the butterfly lands on the flower, but the flower is moving, you have to move the butterfly with the flower. So at what point does it land? Right there. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can use your arrow keys. I try to put the origin dot, the orange dot of the butterfly right on that kind of lime dot. I, location, rotation, and scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Move it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is an arbitrary number. You gotta go, when you get down to the finished project, you gotta go granularly frame by frame and check it out. And so with 316 frames, that's 316 opportunities to achieve. So let's check that out. So already in a short amount of time, we've made something that is approaching the right thing to do. This is the first part of this project. So get to this point and pursue this, and we'll be working on this in class, and you'll have the opportunity to dig into a lot more things. For instance, the relationship between the wings going down and the timing of the butterfly being pushed upward. The wings should go down, catch some air, and then after that, or as it's happening, the acceleration of the butterfly rising. And the same when it approaches a flower and slows down, it should open its wings, which would slow it down, catch some air, flutter. And so you can put so many keyframes, and we'll talk more about that, but I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.